Okay, tell me the truth. Have you ever tried using these plugins on your mix bus? Here's a demo of a song we're working with today. So what you've heard right now is an A/B comparison of the mix bus chain being bypassed and active. Did you hear the difference? Let's see what I have here. Now, the first plugin I'm using is actually the plugin I tend to use quite often on the projects I'm working on. Actually, pretty much in every project I'm working on. And I'm talking about the SSL G-Bus compressor. In my opinion, a great compressor to glue mixes with. It also adds this SSL punch to the sound, which for me is irreplaceable. These are the settings I have here. Depending on the style of music I'm working on, the attack and release times may vary, but for most of the time, these settings look exactly like this. I have my attack on its slowest and my release on its fastest. These settings allow the compressor not to be too aggressive with the peaks, and at the same time sound transparent. The ratio is 2:1 most of the time, just to have some soft, gentle compression. And I prefer to add some makeup gain in order to get that distinctive G-Bus sound on the mix. Let's have a listen. Now here's a tip. You would probably want to try and mix into the compressor in order for it to catch the peaks and even out the dynamics of your song. This will give you a more balanced dynamic range from the beginning. Now the plugin I'm about to show next is a mid-side EQ. This one is very special for me. It gives a lot of control over the frequency manipulations you're doing, and this stereo width knob here is something fantastic. This stereo width knob here is probably one of the main reasons I started using this EQ. What I usually do here is I remove the lows from the sides, approximately under 200 Hz. I also tend to add a high shelf on my side section. This adds some details to the mix, and it's also one way to make your mix sound wider. But in this case, using a stereo width knob was more than enough. Now, in the mid section, what I usually do, well, I clean out the mud and cut out the resonances. Let's have a listen on one of them. Sounds nasty. Let's have a listen to the difference. Next comes the massive passive. The purpose of this EQ in my plugin chain is simple. I use it for some color. I usually add some 27K to the overall mix. It adds some crisp and details to the mix. Sounds fantastic. And I also work with the magical 820 Hz. Why magical, you might ask? Well, try adding it to any mix of yours. It adds some insane body to the overall sound of the song you're working on. So what comes next is probably one of the most unique plugins there is out there. It's the Oxford Inflator. What you see here is a magical plugin. By adding it to your mix and setting up the effect fader, well, just have a listen for yourself. I'm always impressed by how the Inflator manages to bring life to your mix. No matter what the settings are and how you use it, does something magical to the music. This is definitely my go-to plugin. Using plugins like this feels like using a cheat code. What usually comes next after the Inflator? Well, I need something to tame the harshness of the mix, and for that I'm actually using the Wise DS plugin. And if you haven't seen a video where I explain how to remove harshness from your mix, you have to see it. The reason I'm using a de-esser on my mix is very well described in that video. You'll find the link in the description. And the last plugin I'm using on my chain is a limiter. Limiters are great, love them. They make things loud. The reason I'm using one for my mix bus channel is pretty simple. Artists love loud mixes. This specific limiter, which is Stealth Limiter by T-Rex, fits my requirements. The reason I'm using it is because no matter how much you push the limiter, it still sounds transparent. Transparency is key. The out ceiling is usually -1 in order for the true peaks to stay below -1 dB. And I just set the input until the mix reaches the loudness I need. I didn't want to mention in the beginning, but if you have a closer look and rewind the video, you'll see that we are actually not using any processing on the channels directly. The only processing we have here is mix bus processing. So yes, mix bus processing can be helpful and useful. It actually helps a lot when it comes to finalizing your song, like adding color, removing mud, controlling the dynamics, and lots more. Of course, the approaches and plugins may vary, and the example I've shown today is just one of the ways to set up a mix bus. Don't be afraid to experiment, because this will eventually bring you to your own unique sound. Tell me in the comments what you use on your mix bus. Don't forget to like, share, and just smash that subscribe button. And as always, have fun.